Hey, how's it going? It's bigSHow, theGod. So I'm into my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th cast in a couple of weeks. And today what I was going to do was a bit of a summary. So I took some notes. And why has that gone out of it? Oh. Okay. So what I was going to do is go into a bit of a recap on where I'm at. So the casts I've been doing, I've done a few, and they started with reflect. Then we went to review. Then we went accountability. And then we went change. And here we are today. Okay. So they're all kind of like frameworks of what it takes to kind of, for me, to make changes and progress and do bits and pieces. So the way I'm going to capture it now is to use the phrase that the stream is called is do and do not. Now, do not. You think that's the opposite of each one? You get do or do not. So for me, there is only one or the other. So do something or to do not something. And that's they're action words. So if we had did or did not, that's a closed off an event, right? So the do or the do not implies what you're doing. The did and did not is a statement of something I do, not necessarily what I'm doing now or planning to do or not do. Okay. So that sometimes takes a little bit of extra way of looking at the two statements in that. So from my reality, there's doing and there's do not. And then when we talk reflection or we talk review, that is did or did not. Right? So do and do not is kind of more now, it's more present. And I could argue that I might be looking to do or to do not in the now and the future. Whereas to describe the past or after that event is a did or a did not. Cool. So I've only got the four ways. And so that's a cool way of me explaining the past. Doesn't mean so a quick one would be what I did yesterday and what I'm doing today may be different. But the do is now and the did was then. Problem is, unfortunately with life, I seem to go in and out of the do's and the dids, even though I don't want to. Okay. So hopefully everyone understands my perspective of that. And I use those words to help motivate me in my next phase. So what I thought was I'd give an example now of this process I'm trying to work through to bring those other words together. So when we talked about review and reflect, in there, when I review or reflect, there is inevitably stuff I did or didn't do. Okay? I planned to do this, go to the gym and exercise for an hour. I either did it or I did not. Simple. And so all these processes help me to reflect and review. When I reflect and review, I either did it or I did not do it. So that's the validity of it all. And then once I reflect and I review, I can then encourage some change. So you need some honesty, you need some accountability, you need those little pieces in the moment when you're kind of getting ready to do the do, to make sure it's a do or from a do to a did, instead of being from a do to a did not, because you want a do to be a did, and you want to, in the same planning, you may have I do not, and you want that to be a didn't or did not. Cool. Example would be the gym example. Wanted to run for an hour, say. That was planned for tomorrow. It was in the do column. Did it make it to the did, or did it make it to the did not? If it's did not, then it's something to reflect on. If it made it to the did, now that's what I would consider good data to review. It needs to be a did. It can be a did not as well, but it needs to be a did to be and otherwise it's not there. So I'm only reviewing what I did. And the did nots are good too, because you can have stuff you're trying not to do when you're reversing habits. So that's how I've been practicing change for myself. So I call it conscious change. So focus on the do and the do not do until it's a habit. And that's worked pretty well for me. And a few of my pillars or a few of the plans I've had when I goal set. And there's always more I could do or not do. Which is why I keep reflecting and reviewing this and working out why I'm not doing it or not doing some of the things I planned to do tomorrow. And then being consistent and being accountable kind of ties into that, which is why I did those reviews on those other keywords, because it brings me to this. It's kind of lay it on top. It's all about trying to get some action, right? And then ties into your whys. Why be uncomfortable? Why change? Why exercise today? Why look at it in that context? Reality is, I planned it. I had a goal I wanted to do and didn't do it. If I did do it, that's great. Then I've got something to review it on. It all seems logical to me. It just seems to be very difficult to do. So what I thought I'd do is record where I'm at now and what I'm working hard on myself to try and do next, or not just next sometimes, because a lot of this is basic. It's just still holding myself accountable because of my self-awareness as I start knowing that I've got the weaknesses that I have. I call them weaknesses because they seem to pop up where I say I was going to do this and I did not do that. So I use the word weakness. That seems to be quite obvious in there, because a lot of times I have no real answer for it. Or at the time I made a different decision or a different choice at the time. And even when I look at habits or with consistency, the weakness that I have, if I say, I went to the gym yesterday, I went to the day before, I did. Today I didn't. I said I would. And you'd go, well, you can frame it and say, well, you went 5 times, but you didn't go the 6th time. You planned it. It's not like I didn't plan it. So those are the arm wrestles, because then it does come down to some whys and some kind of emotional bits and pieces, which is what I put into the weaknesses. So try and have that threshold where I can improve a couple of percent. If this gets me to do a few extra, if we stick with the fitness side, a few extra workouts with some energy, it helps me improve my nutrition a little bit. If it helps me look at a project from a different perspective, or work through some tasks in there, motivate me to do some tasks that I'm avoiding, or it doesn't satisfy me, or I get distracted, I have some distraction in there, then this is something that it definitely helps me progress through those and review what's going on in me at that particular moment. So an example, my examples I put right now is I might stick with something real basic, was to review my diet slightly. Because as I've mentioned, my diet is real. I've tried to simplify it quite a lot, because I have a real mental weakness of wanting to eat every moment. It's a struggle to not eat right now. And I'm very self-aware of that. And so I've got a myriad of tools to try and reduce that as best I can. So I'm at this level. I'd prefer to be up here, but I understand it's something of a weakness for me. And So these processes have worked for me to get me to at least this level. I was a lot bigger and heavier than I was, not long ago. But still, I'd like to challenge myself more, because I think it's a mental work through with an emotional attachment. And if I can keep chipping away at those types of things, then I'm better off. And so the way I'm doing it is the structure I have: calendars, note-taking, self-awareness in the moment, the decision I make to do or to not do. It all comes up at certain moments of the day. I'm not eating right now, say, but then what's the moment where I then justify and tell myself, oh, I'm going to eat that, as opposed to not eat it. So that's a do or do not. So I'm saying do not eat that. Why did I eat it? So part of that would be to record it. So I've got a new trick on my health page. I record what I did eat, what I planned to eat, right? So I do the intermittent fasting. I've been doing it for sort of 3-ish years. It's a reasonable framework. So on my calendar, it simplifies it quite a lot, and it has a prompt on there, is that I eat after 4 p.m. So that's what I plan to do today. Eat nothing until 4 o'clock and after. Okay. And the plan at 4 o'clock is that I have a pre-made meal, which is a bit of chicken and salad. And that's the plan. Eat that at 4-ish. And then what I do have after that, I eat between 4 and 7. So I'll have that. And then sometimes I'll have some cereal and a couple of pieces of fruit. I chop it up and have that. So I have that. And then I might eat a bit of chicken or meat a bit later on. And that's about the medley of food that I have. And that would, the reasonable portions, that would, I still consume 2,500, 3,000 calories in that time frame. That's generally what I contain it to that time frame. Not easy. Every day these demons pop in my head to go, why, what, and the reality is, and the fact is, and the truth is, I've eaten stuff before 4 o'clock. It's just a fact. So what I do there is I delete that event if I have. So now I can reflect. If I reflect on February, I can see the times where I have eaten outside of 4 o'clock. And so I can look at my chart of my history and say, well, okay, you did it. And I write down what I've eaten. So it's not weighed, it's not to any large degree, but it's steps in that direction. I'm eating after 4. That's what I said I would do. Did I do it? And that's a yes or no. And then there's even if I ate after 4, what did I eat? I had chicken, salad. I had, pork belly with veggies, pork with something. I eat what the wife cooks me, pretty much. it's not the most cleanest diet on the planet, but I'm at a level where I kind of sit with at the moment, because I'm wrestling with, I don't really want to. I'm not in the point where I want to cook and make my own meals. So, if I can just try and restrict myself in this area, I'll take it. So anyway, that's how I kind of give myself some reason to be able to reflect and look through and not get too caught up in just avoiding the whole thing, which is what I've been able to do for most of my life, is avoid all these things. So it brings it kind of more at the front of me, and it supports the accountability, supports the hope, So I've got these do's, what I'm going to do's, today, tomorrow, the next day. And then there is life that comes in between with food. It gets a bit tricky where I have my partner wants to go and eat. There's social dynamics to it as well, which trigger and play a part. It can be seen as, well, it's not very sociable. You want to go and have some breakfast. That's a social event. Well, I'll come. I just don't have the breakfast part. I can do the social bit. But people struggle when you sit there and you don't eat, but they are, and so they avoid having those events with me, and that's part of it, I guess. So yeah. So on that note, so I've got that structure there. I've thought, well, now I add a little bit more to it, which is just as difficult. So I've got the eat after 4, and now put in brackets there, no extra. So now it's going to take 2 pieces to stay on there as recorded. So you've got the eat after 4. That's cool. If you don't, it's gone. And then you've got the no extras. Because what happens with me, even in that 3 or 4 windows, I'm good enough to eat more through that window. Extra portions, pick away, even though I've restricted the food groups that I'll have. So it might be extra bits of meat or extra bits of salad or extra bits of, there's no sugars, there's no breads, there's no, all those sorts of areas I worked down. So I've worked it down to this sort of food groups, but then the volume of that can get out of hand. And I'm seeing that happen. So I'm trying to record that and notice that, which is what I've noticed. And, the tools like weighing yourself every month, and that's in there. I got to weigh myself every month. What I do is I pull that in, then I weigh myself every week. And I hover around the same weight. Been hovering around sort of the 95 to 93 kilo mark. I'm not losing too much sleep over that. But those are other tools that I'll use to reflect on, get my portion size down on a daily habit. Then what I'd like to think will happen is that my other tools of weighing myself and how do I feel about myself and my clothes and the weight shifts and moves, then hopefully that motivates me more to stick to the system and keep it being a did. More dids than did not, and more do's than do not. So yeah, so that's one example. I'll say this too is like when I have a habit that I've kind of developed in this sense, like say the eating after 4, and I get a roll going. I've done it for like a month, and I've got a perfect record, and it's truth and it's honest. It's really difficult to break me then. I get quite hard to break. I'm not obsessed with it, but it's definitely it takes it's like another tool of, this will break my streak. But like alcohol, like I haven't drunk alcohol for 13, 14 years now. So that's like a zero. There's a zero there next to it. And I don't sit here with the same urge to go, I'll have a drink. It's a bit like cigarettes. I don't sit here thinking about cigarettes, so it's not really the same, right? Whereas a bar of chocolate, I'm still sitting here. Wouldn't mind that. My head will justify that. Will justify it in a click of my fingers. From rewards, treats, you're doing well. What's wrong with it? Blah blah blah. And it can become a real thing to say, well, this is a good idea. It turns it from what I think scientifically when I review a bar of chocolate is not a good idea. It can make it a good idea. It wasn't in my to-do lists. It wasn't like planned, like, tomorrow, you know what I'll do? And I know people use this as a cheat meal or a thing. They like to plan it then. Let's have it in a plan, forecast it as a plan. Next Thursday, I'll have a bar of chocolate. My struggle with that is I get to next Thursday and go, what? Well, it's still not a fucking good idea. And so I have the chocolate on the next Thursday. And then what? Start again? Well, wouldn't it have been a better idea to just not have it the next Thursday either? And I guess sometimes there's a battle with that because as I'm showing with myself, I fluctuate in and out with my system, the system I've currently got. So I don't have an absolute zero. And my zero tolerance was the best one. It's the best one that's worked for me so far. But these are the things that I'm comfortable having zero of. It's when I'm uncomfortable or when I'm trying to emotionally not have something that takes the most work. So it takes no work for me to not have a cigarette because I ain't sitting here wanting one, right? So that's not an example of how great I am because I don't have a cigarette right now. I haven't had a cigarette. That's meaningless in a sense. It doesn't prove anything. So proving I can not eat, like I haven't had lollies, chips, ice cream, takeaways. I have had a takeaway, but we're talking 6 months ago. We're talking reasonable lengths of time. They're not forever. I'm not 100% on these things, but I'm at 99%. In the last 3 years, it's on here. I might have had takeaways 10 times in 3 years. And I'm reasonable with those levels. And that's another level of trying to say, well, do and do not. If you had takeaways twice a week and you say, no, we don't have takeaways that much, but you're having it twice a week, it seems like a biggish number, but you can justify the number. A cheap meal once a week, why did you come up with once a week? Why wasn't your cheap meal once a year, once every 6 months? Why is that not the cheap meal? Because We want it, so we justify it, right? And that's the point. And if you're going to sit there and convince me that a cheat meal is a good idea, I'm not. Doesn't mean I'm not partaking in it. It's just, I don't know. I struggle with the mindset, even if I'm failing at my mindset as well, because I'm at my level of stuff that I want, that I say is not a good idea, right? So if I frame a chocolate bar, a bar of chocolate, I sit here, and from the science and the research that I've done and what I perceive, I think having that chocolate bar is not a good idea. I think it's a dumb idea, and it serves no purpose except for some chemical reaction in me right now of biting it, eating it, and chewing on it. Yet, I struggle like hell to not have the damn thing. Every day, I struggle with it. Okay, it's not like it pops into my head. It pops in. And I have to work on a whole lot of tools to not have it. It's from driving down the road, and there it is over there. I could just duck in, grab one, and that's where I'm at again. Well, that's where I'm at again. If I want to make further adjustments, it's the same process, the same weaknesses that I have. And so when I have more examples of those going on in time, the other bit is about when they don't happen, what I do about it, and how do I get back to not doing it again, because I can flip that habit back and have it back again. I assume it's the same for cigarettes. You didn't smoke for 6 months or 3 months or 2 weeks. October, didn't smoke all of October, and then November you're smoking like nonstop again, It's that type of, it's the same yo-yoing. I have the same yo-yoing, so it's hypocritical of me to speak on these subjects unless I'm doing the battle, unless I'm battling with it as well. Correct? So I have to battle with it to be able to empathize and sympathize with others. Even if the subject matter is different, to me it's the same. It's the same battle, I think. I don't think the battle's any different. I don't think am I addicted to the chocolate? Well, I can use a word addicted if it makes me feel better. You say, well, you're addicted. Okay. How do I work with addiction? Addiction would probably become a mental, emotional, these types of things. It's probably the tools and the methods I'm using are probably combined with what you would do with addiction. Probably. So maybe that's what I'm dealing with here. Doesn't make any difference to the process of doing or do not. It may give me another excuse. I don't think it's an excuse if you're diagnosed with being addicted, but still, I don't need to search out and ask questions if I'm addicted to something. People will say, well, you do, because then that helps you work out a plan to deal with addiction. Well, at the moment, I'm dealing with the plan to, did I eat that today or not? If I did, then it's there. And yesterday I did not. Okay. Then what's the tools and the methods to not eat that today? Right? You might say, well, you see, you're not dealing with the root of the problem. Well, I'm dealing with the emotion. I'm dealing with self-awareness at the moment. I'm looking at today, one day at a time, I guess. That seems to be what they speak and talk about. So, yeah. So those are the adjustments I'm making now, which kind of ties in with all the previous podcasts I had. Okay, so the review, the reflect, and all that sort of comes in together. And here's an action one that goes in amongst it with the strength, with the do or do not. So I'm making an adjustment. I did the reviews. Now I'm making adjustments for the future for do and do nots. And that will give me more stuff to now reflect on. You know, if I say to myself, well, I'm going to change my program. I'm going to exercise this way. That's a do. That would be forecasted and written in. Then I would go do it or not do it. If I do it, it's recorded, which allows me to review. If it's not done, it ain't recorded. So then that becomes you can't review it, but it becomes a observation of what you didn't do. And because I now journal during the day, I can then go, on the days I did or did not, I can look at my notes on that day, and that will give me a bit more self-evaluation of what's happened on the day. So that makes my other note-taking more valuable and usable. So when I reflect after my workout, or when I reflect on how I reflect and I use and I put in there how I'm actually feeling, what's actually going on, sometimes I can tie that with, well, here's the nutrition decisions you made. And then the two kind of line up better. And then what will line up better is if I reduce the food in here, 2 days later, I've got more energy, I slept better. And then in my note-taking, my energy levels are higher, my reflection's better, or not. And then I can get more value out of it, right? Or not. So that's how I do a little bit of an adjustment into the framework. And that's only any good if I've got a reasonable framework going. So yeah. So I'm off to the gym now. It's I changed it around today because I wanted to do this now, and then go about my day. Then it's done, and I can see how I go with this progression in the coming months, and see what sort of impact that has when I write about it. Okay.